Welcome to the Unpacking It live podcast. I'm Bryce Johnson with Luke and Henry. We'll be here for the next hour to unpack sports, faith, and life with the Unpacking It community of sports fans. Thanks to those of you listening on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and those of you that listen to the podcast later. We are grateful for all of our listeners and viewers and want you to engage with us today as we recap the NFL weekend, Ryder Cup, college football, a lot going on in the world of sports with the NBA media days taking place. And so that's around the corner. I've interviewed a couple of college basketball coaches lately on the podcast. And so college basketball is coming up quick. So what a wonderful time of year. It's also my birthday on Wednesday. So I love September, October. Let's go. We're going to the pumpkin patch coming up. And then throw in a wedding this past weekend. I just got back from a big wedding weekend down in Georgia. And I'll get into that much more on today's show. During Unpack This, our segment where we unpack sports from a faith perspective and parallel something going on in the sports world and how it relates to our own lives, I want to talk about NFL doubt. What doubts do we have on this Monday afternoon following the NFL weekend? And how do we deal with doubt and doubts in our own lives? And what about when we doubt our faith and doubt God's love for us? What do we do? How do we respond? So we'll unpack that today. And then also we'll do I'm convinced, and we want to know what you're convinced of today. In the world of sports, what are you convinced of? Before we do that, let me ask you this. Do you need to get your own health insurance? We'll go to healthmarketgenius.com. That's healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options. Support them as they support us. Luke, how was the weekend? USA Ryder Cup team wins. I know you're fired up about that. How are you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. You are right. Ryder Cup victory. We are victorious. We are the champions. Huge dub, record-setting victory. So the weekend was excellent. What a tease. I am very intrigued about this wedding story. So whenever we get into it on this episode, I'm probably going to have a litany of questions and remarks. So I'm very excited for that story.
All right. So, yeah, people, some people tune in for our sports talk. Some enjoy the faith talk, and some love the breakdown of weddings. So we provide it all.
We get into the observations of life on this show as well. Sports, faith, and life. All three. The trifecta.
That's it. So we'll do tap drill a little bit later with Henry as well. Big Monday night game tonight with Dallas and Philadelphia. Very intriguing, just because those teams are always intriguing. And, of course, Luke, a Dallas Cowboys fan, so we'll get his thoughts on the game in a little bit as well. All right, Luke, why don't you get us started with what you're convinced of today?
So this is low-hanging fruit, but it must be said, I'm convinced this is the greatest American Ryder Cup team that has ever been assembled. And there's numerous stats I can go to, including it's a record-setting victory. No Ryder Cup team since Britain and continental Europe joined, which was in 1979. It used to be American versus U.S. versus England. 79 they joined. So since 1979, this is the highest. No one's ever gotten to 19 points. Europe had gotten to 18.5 points twice. So it's a record win. 10-point victory. It wasn't even close. The Americans won every session, which is the first time they've ever done that. And so those stats are enough to prove that this is the greatest American Ryder Cup team ever. But the intangibles. This team, it's like the dream team in basketball. These guys are friends. and they referred to it numerous occasions. They've all grown up playing golf together. They've known each other since grade school, since high school, playing junior golf together, growing up. They all know each other. We are finally past the Phil and Tiger era, which was an interesting era. Those guys, major alpha dogs, and there was a huge power vacuum. And now it's officially a new generation where Dustin Johnson's the oldest golfer. All these guys are younger in their early to mid to late 20s. It's by far the best American Ryder Cup team assembled, talent-wise, the team unity-wise. They went out and performed. They dominated. And now we've got, at minimum, a next decade of potential Ryder Cup greatness. So that's what I'm convinced of. It is low-hanging fruit because I think it's somewhat obvious, but it needed to be said on record on the Unpacking It Live podcast.
To me, the domination from really start to finish was most impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, was it? We're talking about doubts today. Was it ever in doubt? I don't think it was. It was so impressive. So, got to give USA a ton of love, and well said by Luke. So excited about that. I'm waiting to get the full update on one of our loyal listeners, Brady, who was there.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
He's fired up.
Gosh.
He's also an NC State fan, so he had like the weekend of his life.
Wow.
So,
yeah, seriously.
So I texted him, so I'm waiting to get some updates from him. But all right, so I got so much I'm convinced of today. but let me start with this. I'm convinced driving on a Sunday afternoon in the fall is not what I want to be doing.
Brutal.
You know what I want to be doing on Sunday afternoon? I want to be in my man cave, in my recliner, watching the Red Zone channel with two different games on TV number 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what I was doing yesterday, driving back from the wedding, which I'll discuss, but I was flipping through the radio dial. Now, for those of you that watch this on Facebook Live and listen to the podcast, I am a true radio guy. I love radio. I got a taste of it in 8th grade. I went to college to study radio. I was on the radio for many years and love radio. And we've got some other opportunities coming up, but I still love podcasting now. Anyway, I love the radio. I love the sound of radio. I love everything about it. You find a channel. I love the static, the hearing of the static. Like,
oh yeah,
all of it. So here I was yesterday, though. It was like I was back in time. I was back in radio land, and all the old like stations that I've maybe been aware of over the years. I'm like, all right, what sports station? So I was down in Georgia. So I'm driving back from Georgia to North Carolina trying to find games. But guess what games I was able to pull up on the radio?
Ooh, the Falcons?
Atlanta Falcons and the New York Giants.
Oh,
I mean, it's just torture. So I'm listening to I'm kind of getting into it because it was actually a close game. It came down to the wire, and poor Henry, his New York Giants team, lose to the very sad, sorry Atlanta Falcons. They somehow pulled it out, and so I'm listening to it, but it was fun because one of the play-by-play guy is Wes Durham, and so. Years ago, Wes Durham was on my radio show in Charlotte, so a real nice guy. So it was fun to listen to him. And then Wes Durham's dad, Woody Durham, is the famous UNC Chapel Hill voice of the Tar Heels.
Legends.
So anyway, radio guy was fun. And then I was able to find another station as I drove up a little bit closer. Actually, I don't even know how I got it. Oh, I know why. Because it was the Clemson station. All of a sudden, I'm listening to Clemson radio. It's like Roar Radio. And guess what NFL game they were carrying? They're carrying Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How about that?
So I'm getting the Arizona-Jacksonville game on the radio. Now, some of you may be listening now and you go, why wouldn't you just stream your phone and you can listen to any game you want? You know, that's a great idea. But guess what? I don't have unlimited data. And then you might say, well, why don't you have unlimited data? Doesn't everybody have unlimited data? Well, that costs money. I pay for Red Zone. I splurge for the Red Zone. I've got 3 TVs. I can't be paying for unlimited data as well.
That's right.
I'm a ministry guy. What are we doing here?
You have invested in a great home court advantage for viewership, but away games are tough for you. Driving on the road, it's tough.
I was struggling. I was having a tough time. So I called my brother in desperation at one point. I called my dad. So she's like, "All right, tell me what's going on. What am I missing? What am I missing?" So anyway, I don't even know what I was convinced of. Oh, I want to be in my man cave. So I'm looking forward to getting
You're in
back
the
to
wrong
man
driver's
cave.
seat. The driver's seat you want to be in is your recliner. That's
Yes.
the driver's seat you want to be in.
I need to be working the clickers, not the tuner on the radio dial. I can't be doing that.
Clicker. I just gotta respond here. You call it a clicker.
It's a clicker. What do you go with?
Remote.
Remote. Well, it's not a remote island. It's not a remote island. It's remote. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
A remote part of town. It's a clicker.
I don't know. It's the remote. Or you could throw in option C. Just call it a universal. Yeah, I just gotta. I'm playing with the universal.
Universal.
I've never called. Oh yeah.
Universal Studios. We got the universe. I mean, it's a clicker. It's a simple clicker.
We got controller. Controller's one option.
Video games. That's a controller video game. I was just telling Maddie about the clicker today. My 2-year-old. So yeah, I feel I'm very confident in clicker.
Interesting.
I may have converted Jody, my wife, on that. I forget what she called it coming into marriage, but we are a clicker household.
Interesting.
And that will remain. So
maybe that's regional. At least in DFW. If you're from DFW, feel free to correct me on this, but I didn't grow up with anyone calling it a clicker. So maybe it's an East Coast thing. But in Dallas-Fort Worth, I never heard anyone call it a clicker. So if you're from Dallas-Fort Worth and you're a passionate support of calling it a clicker, please reach out to me because I am not enlightened to that.
Yeah, all right. It's a fair question. It is a debate because I know that it's not universal that everyone calls it a clicker or a remote. I do know that much. All right. So a couple of thankfully I was able to get home and I saw the Packers 49ers game, which ended up being an awesome game. So I do have some takeaways from that. The fact that the Lions lost the way they did, it truly is devastating. And so the question I have for us today, what fan bases do you really feel bad for? Yeah. And here's the caveat. Who aren't annoying fan bases. So fair. I find Detroit Lions fans to be reasonable. Good friend of mine, Greg, diehard fan, and I feel bad for Greg today. I that was just a tough loss. Like it's cool, and like Harbaugh was happy that the Ravens won, but you can see the look on his face. It's like, that was a lucky one. We don't deserve that. The Lions played tough, and the Lions have played tough all season. And so that was the one that they really needed because I think Dan Campbell has come in and they've taken on his personality as the head coach, and they're playing tough. They're in games. They're grinding it out, and I wanted to see them win that. So I was bummed by that. So I'd love to get some feedback from those of you listening right now. What fan bases do you actually feel bad for? Not just today, but just in general for their history, their legacy. And I think I've said this before, but I like the Lions, and I just have a soft spot for the Lions, and I think it's because of Thanksgiving. So that's why. So I root for them. I find myself always just kind of liking when they win versus when they lose, or rooting for them to lose.
I think this is an incredible topic, and it's worth really diving into. I agree with the Lions. One, for any team to lose on a 66-yard field goal, that is absolutely absurd. Absolutely, because I can understand, lost on a 59-yarder, lost on a 57-yarder. Oh, well, what are you going to do? 66 yards. The fact that they rolled out the field goal unit and didn't go the Hail Mary route. Well, most teams are not rolling out the field goal unit because it's impossible. So one, is Justin Tucker not the greatest kicker of all time? I feel like he's continuing to prove accuracy. Now he drills a 66-yarder. But yes.
Did he won one Super Bowl when they beat San Francisco?
Yeah.
He was the kicker there. Can we confirm that?
He's been there for a long time.
Because our boy Matt Stover has been on our show. I know that he won with Baltimore, but he must have won the one that when they beat the Giants. So I guess Tucker was there. But anyway, to me, to be the greatest, you definitely have to have a Super Bowl. You gotta have to have some big time kicks.
Yeah, and man, Justin Tucker, goodness gracious. But yeah, for Lions fans, I don't think it's possible for them to be annoying because they're not one of those fan bases where you lose every year, but they come in hot from the offseason saying, oh, yeah, we're winning. Like,
No,
they
there's
don't
never
set
hype.
crazy expectations. It's just suffering every single year. And for them to be the team to lose on a 66-yarder,
Of course. It's
goodness
classic.
gracious. And then to waste talent, to have Calvin Johnson, Stafford, Barry Sanders, these legends of the game. Well, Stafford legend, I don't know. But Calvin Johnson,
Hey.
Barry Sanders. I mean, oh, to be a Detroit fan, Lions fan, I wouldn't go the Pistons route, but to be a Lions fan, oh, just so disappointing. I think a team that I really feel bad for and who are not annoying, the Sacramento Kings. To be a Kings fan.
The question is, do you know a fan of the Kings?
Fair. This is why I feel bad for them, because they're so irrelevant. The irrelevance factor of the Kings, you're never going to land a free agent. You know that the only route to be good is to build through the draft. You have the conspiracy of the finals against the Lakers, which is just if you dive into that can be frustrating.
I'm a Lakers fan, so I don't like that, but yeah.
So, but to be a Kings fan, because they don't set high expectations, it's just they get punched in the face every single year, it feels like. And then to miss out on their really good teams, to not get a championship out of that, at least for Mavs fans, we got a championship out of in 2011. So the years after 2011, when it's just brutality, and then 06 to lose in heartbreaking fashion, to get a championship, you feel better. Mavs fans are easy to pity. But to be a Kings fan, to be irrelevant, there's not a championship to fall back on. Oh, I just feel so bad for them.
So I think Browns fans, like it's fair to consider them, but I got a lot of buddies that are Browns fans, and I love those guys, but they can be annoying in their fandom because they complain a lot about the losing. Like Lions fans, to me, that it's just not the same level of complaining. Now, speaking of the Browns are for real. The Browns handled the Bears and all the talk today, which we'll discuss as well. You know, why Justin Fields didn't play well, the desire to fire Matt Nagy and all that. Nagy.
Yeah.
Nagy, Matt Nagy. Get rid of Matt Nagy. We don't want Nagy here anymore. So, but I think Browns fans now they've hyped themselves up the last few years. So they've gone down the annoying channel a little bit more so than Lions fans. So, and then Bengals.
Bengals. Got to talk Bengals. This is an interesting one.
Bengals fans.
It's been like 15 years since a playoff win? I don't think Bengals fans are annoying.
No, I don't think they are either. I've got two guys I can think of. Yeah, they're not too bad. Bengals fans are okay. But I don't think they've had the depth of despair that the Lions have.
It's just
so it's a little different.
It's just years and years and years of slightly below mediocrity. It's not gut-wrenching losses. True. And it's not the thought of, oh man, we really wasted all this talent.
Well, AJ Green and Andy Dalton was okay, but
to the level of having a Calvin Johnson and Stafford.
To me, AJ Green wasn't far behind Calvin Johnson when he was at his peak.
That's fair.
And AJ Green got a lot of injuries and kind of has fizzled off, but then he's done okay in Arizona this year.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting topic. What fan base is bad for?
I've got two more to shout out. I've got to shout out the entire state of Georgia for recent gut-wrenching losses. I feel bad for Falcons fans. I don't think Falcons fans are annoying, but to lose the way they did against the Patriots, and then if you're living in the state of Georgia and you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, to lose to Bama in the national championship in that way, Bama brings Tua off the bench to win it in overtime. I feel bad for if you are a Georgia Bulldog fan and a Falcon fan to have those losses within a short time period. That must have been brutal.
All right, so let me give you my perspective on this. So having lived in Charlotte, Atlanta's a huge rival of ours, and they come to Panthers games and are extremely annoying. So Falcons fans are, oh my goodness, annoying, especially during the Michael Vick years. when that was a rivalry. Panthers would lose a lot to the Falcons. So it was brutal at home games, and I would probably go to the games more often then because now I'm in the man cave, but I didn't have a man cave back then. So the Falcons fans were brutal then. And then I've been to a Georgia game, and I found Georgia, the experience was awesome. It was an awesome game to be at. But the fans, I got stuck in a crowd like waiting to get into the stadium. And the fans that I was around, so I'm not going to blanket statement, but the fans that I got stuck near trying to get into the stadium were very annoyed. They were very annoyed, and it was very hot, and it was not pleasant. But
interesting. And my last one is just I had to think of a team who's really bad, but I don't feel bad for, and that's Cleveland Cavaliers fans. I have no pity for Cavs fans because of just erratic fandom. I don't feel bad that LeBron left Cleveland twice. They're out here burning jerseys. If you are a jersey burner, you have lost all credibility of I should feel bad for you. Yeah. There's just no I cannot feel bad for a jersey burner. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yes. No, I'm with you on that. So I don't feel bad for Cavs fans. They got themselves a championship. And they got to experience LeBron for a number of years, which was pretty sweet. Yeah. All right, we'll get serious here. Let's talk about this Unpack This topic for today. And so we send out a devotional Monday, Wednesday, Friday, takes a sports story, relates it to the Bible and our own lives. So today I want to talk about doubt. And as NFL fans, we ride the roller coaster week in, week out, the reaction, overreaction, Mondays, and all that sort of thing. But oftentimes we get filled with doubt about certain players and certain teams following a loss. And so today, kind of a general consensus, we doubt that Mike Tomlin will continue his streak of non-losing seasons to start a career, and that it's going to end at 14 straight seasons because the Steelers are in big trouble. We doubt that Ben Roethlisberger is going to turn it around. We doubt that they have the offensive line that's going to protect him. We doubt that they have a good enough backup to come in and change things. Yeah. I've got another perspective on that we'll get to in a little bit on the Steelers. But the other thing that we doubt, and I'm starting to fall into this because I came into the season very hot on the Colts, but I'm starting to doubt that Carson Wentz is going to turn them around. At least there's going to be enough time to turn it around this season, going 0-3. They needed to win that game yesterday against the Titans. And he's playing banged up, and they're just not clicking. And so there's a lot of doubt creeping in Indy. We also doubt that Washington's defense is as tough as we thought it was going to be. They give up 43 points to the Bills. What's going on? So there's some doubt there. We also doubt that the Chiefs are unstoppable. They're not as unstoppable as they once were, as they fell to the Chargers yesterday, and now they're 1-2 to start the season.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very perplexing.
Yeah, they don't have that same off factor with that offense.
Yeah.
Now Clyde Edwards-Helaire played better yesterday with 100 yards, which was important, I think, for them. So anyway, a lot of different concerns and doubt that creep in. Now on the flip side, after some wins, here are the doubts that no longer seem prevalent. We no longer doubt that the crazy offseason that Aaron Rodgers had is going to derail the Packers season. Mm-hmm. So whatever doubt we had after week 1, that doubt is gone, right? Another clutch win, incredible performance, just pulling out the victory against the Niners. Nobody doubts the difference that Matthew Stafford's going to make at quarterback. Like, remember there was some doubt, like, well, is Stafford really that good? Is he going to make a difference in LA? Like, is he much better than Jared Goff?
Yeah.
I think through 3 weeks, there's a difference there.
Certainly.
This is a legitimate. Now, Goff took the team to the Super Bowl, so I don't think you have to pile on Goff.
Yeah, it's not so much degrading Goff. It's more so elevating Stafford.
Yes. And I think it's fair to say Stafford is better than Goff, especially at this point in his career.
Yeah.
And so he makes the Rams better, and he's a better fit. And what him and Cooper Kupp are doing, and so
Cooper Kupp, man, goodness,
2 fantasy leagues, baby. Let's go. I've already got people texting me want trades. So the doubt, kind of gone away for Stafford, and then also I think the doubts surrounding Derek Carr. We talked about this on last week's show. I'm all in on Carr. I'm still not all in on the Raiders. They barely squeaked it out against the Dolphins, but they are 3-0, so that's good. But the doubts about Carr, because there were plenty of doubts about him, that he was the franchise guy, that this would move on from him. I think at this point, those doubts have gone away. All right. So doubts come and go throughout the NFL season. And when doubts creep in, though, here's the thing that we have to do. Fans have to remember the truth about coaches and players. And so when I think about the Steelers in particular, we can't get too dramatic. It's only 3 games because the Steelers over the years, even the years that we've had doubts, Mike Tomlin always finds a way to turn this season around or to finish strong. And some of those teams that struggle, that at times he got the most out of them. He made the right adjustments. We've seen this before. Same with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. Like, we go down that path in years past. We've had the doubts about Rodgers, and then they bounce back and they're fine. And so we have to look at the history, and we have to remember, the truth about the coaches and the players that we may have doubts about. And just remember last year when we doubted Tom Brady and the Bucs. I was one of them. I doubted.
Major doubt.
And I was
doubting Gronk, doubting if Gronk has anything left in the tank.
Yes. So of course, some doubts, they will play out, in a way that we were afraid they would. But we also, even when that happens, we have to realize that it doesn't mean that we totally give up or stop believing, in our team completely, unless you're a Lions fan. But other than that, like, you still stick to your team, and so the doubts may come and go, but you still stay loyal and committed to your favorite team. And so do the Lions fans. But here's the correlation to our own lives. Many of us today, we're filled with our own sets of doubts, and that may be about life, it may be about God, it may be about relationships, our abilities, the future. Doubt comes and goes. It's a part of life. We're flawed humans, and doubt is going to creep in, and life is hard. And sometimes it does feel like a roller coaster, like the season in the NFL. And so it's not surprising when we doubt that things are going to get better, or that God really loves us, or that we're capable of doing anything significant.
Yeah.
And although we may have these moments or seasons of doubt, we must remember the truth about God, about his word. And we have to look back at the history that shows us his faithfulness. And we have to look back at his goodness. And the impact on our lives, it's evident. We have to look for it. But oftentimes the doubt takes over. And so that's what we start thinking. We allow the doubt to dominate our thoughts. But when we start looking around and remind ourselves of his faithfulness, his impact, his goodness, the way that he's moved in our lives, the doubt starts to go away. And then the other thing that always comes back to is how much he loves us was shown on the cross. And so some days when things aren't going our way and we're like, man, does God really love me? Yeah, he loves us. He sent Jesus to die on the cross, and he rose again so that we can be saved and have eternal life. So that's the love that we have. So we have to go back to that, and that's our anchor, and that's what we cling to. And so even when doubts following disappointments, do take over or sneak in for a while, it doesn't mean that we totally, give up on God or completely, stop believing in him and his love and his faithfulness. We may question here or there and have some moments of insecurity and questioning, but we go back to the cross, and we go back to his love and his goodness and his faithfulness. And so part of that process too, just some verses to bring this home and encourage us today. I think Psalm 46:10, where it says, "Be still and know, recognize and understand that I am God." So we have to go back to, okay, who is God? And start there and remember his character and his power and his love. And then Hebrews 10:23 says, "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise." And so we cling to the promises of God and in Scripture, and we rely on those because he is trustworthy, and he always has been, and he always will be. And then we also have to remember in 2 Timothy 2:13, it says, "If we are faithless, he remains faithful, true to his word and his righteous character, for he cannot deny himself." And so just because we doubt and just because we're faithless, for one, he can handle it, and his character remains the same, and he's always faithful. And then one more, when Moses told Joshua in Deuteronomy, he says, The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And so I think that could be an encouragement to us as well today. So you can unpack that. We're going to have doubt. And so what are we going to do with that doubt?
Yeah.
And how are we going to respond to the doubt?
Mm-hmm.
Luke, jump on in.
I think you've said it very well. First, acknowledging the doubt is real. I think it's easy. I've certainly experienced doubt. It's pretty much routine for me. I think just the way, as I've looked back on my relationship with God, for some reason, it's easier for me to doubt God's existence. It's easy for me to doubt things I can't see. And so that's an ongoing struggle that I really have to rely on God for. It's God, give me the grace to believe, give me the grace to trust who you say you are, what you say about you. And it's been really awesome to rely on God for that. So for those who experience doubt, it's easy to go to a place of self-condemnation on, oh, how could I doubt God? Oh, I must not be saved, or I'm horrible for doubting God. Doubt is real, and a lot of people experience it, but when you're in the midst of it, it can feel like you're the only one who experiences doubt, because especially when you see things on social media, people making these long posts on there's intimacy with God, and it's like, oh, wow, I want that. Those people also may experience doubt. Like, I experience intimacy with God, but I also experience doubt. So, one, I just want to say that don't condemn yourself when you experience waves of doubt. And then the next thing is, remember the past. I think a lot of things in a lot of Christian circles to say, oh, well, you've been saved, the past is worthless. Don't think about the past. In one sense, yes, I'm not defined by my past sin.
True.
Like in the past, prior to being in a relationship with God, of course, I'm moving forward, advancing, and I'm being sanctified by the Spirit. I'm growing in intimacy with God. But remember the past in God's faithfulness. Just like you're talking about, especially in for all of us fantasy football players, if you've had a player struggling to start the season, I think of a guy like George Kittle. I have him on my fantasy team. He had a nice week this week, but the first 2 weeks, kind of a snoozer. I have to remember, hey, George Kittle's a good player.
That's right.
It's going to average out. And when we doubt God, especially when we're going through difficult things, oh, does God love us? Is God here? Is God faithful? How could God let this happen? Remember on God's previous faithfulness. Where do we do that? Primarily God's word. We see, and you read through Joshua and Judges, God routinely introduces himself as, I'm the Lord your God who brought you up out of Egypt. Remember this, Israel. I did this. I brought you out of Egypt. Remember my faithfulness, because life is really hard. So how can we look back and remember God's faithfulness in our own lives? It's so easy to ask God for things, and then we never thank him for answering prayers. I do this in my, I'll ask God for something. The prayer may be answered in a different way than I thought, or it will be answered, or God allows me to get through something, and I forget to thank him. And then I experience hard things, and it's, oh, God, where are you? And thankfully, God, in his grace and through other people encouraging me, has reminded me, look back on God's faithfulness and be reminded on who he is. And it's so you can remove yourself from the temptation to buy into God's not real, God's not here, he's not faithful. He is. We just have to dwell back and remember on his previous faithfulness as encouragement going forward, because he will remain faithful.
Amen.
So my two things. Doubt's real, and remember God's faithfulness in the past.
And when we do have doubt, for us to turn to him, not away from him. And I got this doubt, so I'm going to kind of go and run toward him with our doubts, with our questions, with our concerns.
Exactly.
And let him speak to us and show us in his word, and speak through other people to us to help us in those doubts, because he's got truth to respond to those doubts. That's the encouragement that we have.
Exactly. There's a temptation to, you experience doubt. I know I've experienced this, and my first thought is, okay, let me kind of clean up this doubt. Let me get over the doubt, and then I'll go to God again once I have strong faith. That is just totally wrong. When you experience doubt, tell God, God, I'm experiencing doubt. I need your grace. Over and over again, it's so easy to think, let me clean myself up, then go to God. That's just not how it works. God saved us even though we were sinners. Christ Jesus died for us, as Romans 5 talks about. We're sinners. Christ died for us. When we've been saved, hey, we still sin. Continue to approach God in confidence and tell him, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm experiencing doubt. Don't buy into the temptation to have to clean yourself up and then approach God, because that will only lead to more doubt. Because even things like doubt, it's hard to get over by yourself. You need God's grace.
Amen. Amen. So, yeah, what will we do when the doubts come? Turn to Jesus and turn to God's word. So hopefully that's encouraging to all of us today, because, on Monday we got a lot of doubts about NFL teams and players, but I know many of us experience doubts in our own lives as well. So I hope that we can begin the week encouraged, knowing that we're loved and that God's been faithful and good. We just got to kind of look around and be reminded of it. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into a couple of the other NFL stories, and then I can't wait to get some of your response to my wedding shenanigans from the weekend. But last week on the show, I went all in on wanting the Bucs to go undefeated, believing they could do it, believing that they wanted to do it, that they should want to do it. And then they lost to the Rams. So my bigger takeaway is that the Rams are really legit. And so I was all in on the Rams anyway. This was a major confirmation of that, I guess, by knocking off the Bucs. It is only week 3, but that was big. And now at least the Bucs don't have that hanging over them, because in some ways it might have been a distraction throughout the year. Are they going to go undefeated? So now I don't worry about that. They're still good. They're going to be fine. Tom Brady was still one of the best quarterbacks yesterday, if not the best quarterback yesterday. So he was solid. The defense kind of let them down a little bit, and they're a little banged up, and the Rams played really well. So they'll both be there. We'll talk about the Patriots Bucs coming up with Henry during tap drill, but I cannot wait. It's Monday. I can't wait for Brady to return. It's going to be fantastic. So looking forward to that. And then I was highly anticipating Justin Fields playing for Chicago. And now that we saw what we saw, for those of you that got to watch and enjoy the game, I was on the radio trying to find something, but I got to listen to the Jacksonville, Arizona game. So yeah, so that was great. I'll break down that game. But no, to me, the concern that guys like Mike Wilbon had and Bears fans, that the Bears didn't have the offensive line needed, that they weren't set up for Fields to really thrive. And so that kind of is what we saw. And to me, the indecisiveness of Matt Nagy is what drives me nuts. It's be confident in what you're doing as a head coach, but there is no confidence, because I don't think he's a confident head coach, and nobody has confidence in him, because even today I was reading, it's like, all right, is it going to be Fields? It might be Nick Foles. Nick Foles might start this week, or is it going to be Andy Dalton? And part of that is injury concerns and not knowing who's going to be healthy. But even before that, it's just this back and forth. He doesn't have control of that locker room, and it's just a bad situation. And Dan Orlovsky on ESPN today, he came out really passionately, fire Matt Nagy. That was the worst game plan. They didn't set up Justin Fields to succeed. And that's a fair observation as well. I'm just not sure that midway through the season that always works out for the best.
Yep.
So anyway, I was disappointed they didn't play better.
I've got a couple questions for you. First one is, have you looked in the mirror? Has your opinion on the Vikings changed? After starting 0-2, you said, I'm not really sure about the Vikings. No Dalvin Cook, which I think, did you pick up the Vikings backup running back?
I was in Madison. I'm always on the Madison train. Yes.
That's right. You're just a waiver wire machine. But
I love backup running backs.
Beating Seattle, has your opinion on Minnesota changed?
Not yet. They've been in games. My big concern, kind of like with Nagy, is that Zimmer is kind of a lame duck coach. that there's not a full buy-in with him, and is the team really, just behind him? I was getting that vibe. And I'm not sure that Kirk Cousins, I think he's a good to sometimes really good quarterback. There's no denying it. His numbers are strong, but he's still always that guy that I have doubts about, right? Back to the doubts.
Yeah.
That he can win games and be consistent and well, he doesn't really win the marquee games, and that continues to be his thing. So I don't think they're going to be better than the Packers. And no, I'm not convinced. No, that my answer is no, I'm not convinced. And what I would take away from Seattle losing is that Seattle might be in trouble because someone in that division is going to have to be the bottom of that division.
That's true.
And the Cardinals, they don't look to be that team. And
that's a really good division.
And so you got the Cardinals, the 49ers lost last night, which we'll talk about, Arizona and Seattle. So the Cardinals, 49ers, the Rams. So of course the Rams are the best.
Yeah.
So Seattle, like at some point, the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson thing isn't going to work out. They ran it back this year, and it's gotten off to a kind of a slow, okay start, and then you lose to the Vikings. To me, the concern is on them versus me jumping on the Vikings bandwagon, if that's fair.
So that's interesting. It was only a few years ago where the winner of that division had a losing record. Right?
True.
Like that was the worst division in football.
I know.
And
that's
now
what's great about the NFL.
Is it the best? I don't know. My other question is, does it seem that the Jets are actually clearly the worst team in the NFL this year? Going into the season, it was kind of a race. Is it going to be Jacksonville or Houston with the number 1 pick?
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, man.
Atrocious, hopeless.
0 points. I know Denver's 3-0, but a goose egg? We talked last week. 0 points in an NFL game, like when Miami put up a goose egg.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. That happens like once or twice a season.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. It's
the
bad.
The Jets are really, really, really bad. Like it's a nightmare there. So, and it's going to be years before they even could turn it around. So, yeah. And then with Jacksonville, they're a team that there is enough offensive talent and some good receivers. James Robinson's a good running back. Trevor Lawrence, there is talent there. There's a reason he was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But my opinion hasn't changed with that Urban Meyer. It's just not going to work out. It's not going to be a successful endeavor there.
Yeah. Okay, I do have another question, and this one hits home a little bit. What is going on in Indianapolis? I don't know if you want to answer this question because it's going to be difficult because I know you love the Colts. I still owe you this football or one of these helmets, both signed by Eric Dickerson. Shout out to the Charlotte Touchdown Club. You took me. I walk away with the first 2 auction items I've ever walked away with, just raffle items. I come out with both of them, and you're thinking, why did I bring this guy?
Yeah. So Luke wins both of them, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, he's interning, and he's working hard. And it's like, oh, that's nice. I took him to this nice lunch. Eric Dickerson was the speaker. We got to meet him afterward. But Luke wins not 1, but 2 raffle items. And I thought, all right, I've been a nice boss to him this summer, give him this opportunity to come hang out with Unpacking It. He's going to at least give me one of the items, and he can even choose. He can keep the football or the helmet, but he'll leave one behind. No. Summer came, wraps up the internship, a nice little token of appreciation. Here's your Eric Dickerson ball, which I would have preferred. Nope, he took both, and I'm left with crumbs from his desk that I had to clean up. So thanks a lot, because he ate his lunch at his desk. Thanks a lot. Would have been nice.
The remnants of my ham and mayonnaise sandwiches. And then my generous boss Bryce sends me a signed Amari Cooper football for my birthday last year, and I still have yet to return the favor.
That's right.
So he is building up a tab where whatever I give to him is going to have to be the most generous gift of all time. But
that's
anyway,
right.
Let me hear your appraisal on Indianapolis. Is it Wentz? Is it I don't know what it is.
So there is a lot of doubt. I think it's fair. There's plenty of concern. The fact that Jonathan Taylor isn't running the ball well and effectively is the number 1 concern. Now, Nyheim Hines had a nice game yesterday, but they're going to have to rely on the run game. And Jonathan Taylor has the talent. He showed it last year, and it's just not getting going. I think a number of injuries have been a factor. T.Y. Hilton's out and across the line, and a couple defensive players here and there. So they've got injuries, and of course Wentz is banged up. You don't like playing injured quarterbacks, especially guys like Wentz who have had the injury history. Guys like Roethlisberger, Brett Favre, like over the years, like they always played with injuries. Like that was just kind of part of who they were, and that was the deal. Now Roethlisberger has missed time over the years as well, but
really known for being really tough.
But yeah,
really tough.
The guys have played through things. But Wentz, it's just some of the stigmas that he developed in Philly, unfortunately have stayed with him, and he hasn't been able to overcome it. And he just got off to such a bad start because he got hurt in training camp.
Yeah.
So you didn't get all the reps that you wanted a new quarterback to have. Whereas Matthew Stafford's out in LA getting all the reps during the offseason, didn't even need preseason. Training camp, he fit in well. Boom. They picked up, started the season, the Rams. As soon as they kicked off, they're ready to roll. And now they're 3-0. And that was the hope in Indy. They have had a tough start to the season, but and there's some chances. They get to play Jacksonville twice. They get to play Houston twice. So they're going to start getting some momentum once they get some divisional games. But they missed out on a game against Tennessee. But if they split with Tennessee, they'll be all right. So anyway, I think there's still enough time, but there is some doubt and concern for sure.
Yeah.
Real quickly, we'll go all the way back to Thursday. My Carolina Panthers, another nice win, 3-0. My thoughts on them remain the same as well. They still have to beat some legitimate teams. It was great to beat New Orleans, but they didn't have any coaches. So that was my big concern there. Houston, it was a backup quarterback. It was nice. It was fine. They did what they were supposed to do. Now you play without Christian McCaffrey. And thankfully, I'm a big fan of Chuba Hubbard, and
very good.
Love that draft pick. He's going to at least keep things steady. But he's not the weapon that CMC is. Nobody is. He's one of one in the NFL when he's out there.
Yeah.
And so you're going to struggle without him being there at certain points in the game because Hubbard just isn't that guy. But I think from a keeping the run game going, setting up Sam Darnold to then tap into his 3 legit receivers, they'll be okay. The Panthers are still going to be fine, and they're going to be in the mix this year. They're not an elite team. They're not like this 3-0 unbelievable team, but the defense is elite. And when you have an elite defense, even though J.C. Horn, our number 1 pick, just went down, which is concerning, but just pulled off a trade to get another corner, which is nice. But anyway, I'm still encouraged by the Panthers, excited, and we'll see how long CMC actually is out.
Panthers got to be an elite Cowboys team next week.
Yes,
so that's going to be a tester.
I am concerned about that one. I am concerned.
The last thing before we move on, I'm in a dilemma tonight. Monday night game, Cowboys Eagles. Do I opt away from the Manning brothers? Do I want to really buy in to? Because we talked about this before. If you're kind of drained from the weekend of football, you don't have your team playing. Manning brothers, great thing to spice it up. But do I want to get the game broadcast, really dive into the play? I think so. Also, I have a slight problem with the Manning brothers broadcast after watching it on numerous occasions now. I need more Eli and Peyton banter. I feel like they're buying into this pressure of we need to have another interview, need to have another guest, another guest. Guests are great, but let's not undervalue the Peyton and Eli banter. Let's not undervalue them actually talking football X's and O's. We don't want to overcorrect and we just need personality in interviews. Let's get a little more X's and O's because they have awesome things to say, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and I would even say I appreciate the X's and O's, but I like the stories even more so.
Stories are good.
Like what really happened or what was really going on, back in the day, but then especially when some of those stories affect teams or coaches that are playing now, that kind of gives you just a better picture of the NFL and the dynamics at play. That's what I've absolutely loved. And then some of the insight just to their minds as quarterbacks has been tremendous. But oftentimes we'll get that in a regular broadcast as well. Now they're elite and that's good. But when you listen to other games, a lot of times these former players they're great and they can give you some X and O stuff. But I like the interviews and I like one per quarter. I think that's the key. And then maybe down the stretch, especially in a tight game, you don't need an interview then. Now, it was nice when they had Russell Wilson. That probably worked out, but I don't think you need that. I think those two should carry it down the stretch in the game. So maybe we'll see that tonight.
Exactly.
I'll be watching the Manning brothers. That's for sure. All right. Let's see. Any last thoughts? Here's just something to kind of consider. Is Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers overrated? Because to me, I want to see more from this offense. And is it Jimmy Garoppolo? So is he the problem? But I was disappointed watching San Francisco against the Packers. I wanted to see more Kittle. I wanted to go back to Brandon Ayuk.
Got a touchdown.
He did.
Scored
finally.
A touchdown.
So I was one of those guys to say not to give up on him. But to me, there's just something missing. Maybe it truly is Garoppolo, but I thought he made some big throws down the stretch because he kind of set themselves up for the win. He wasn't really the reason that they lost. But sometimes I'm just like, Shanahan gets so much hype, and it's like they run all these little in motion, and they were talking about it during the game. It was kind of interesting. But maybe some of that stuff doesn't actually work. Like, to me, it's like, what are we doing here? Let's let some of these talented players on this team really shine.
Yeah.
And they've been barely putting up points in the last 2 weeks.
Well, wasn't Shanahan supposed to be the new and improved Sean McVay? The move to young coaches, these offensive juggernauts. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I know they're 2-1. 2-1. They beat Detroit. And then they squeaked one out.
It's been to be, if I was a Niners fan, it would be discouraging. I mean, after they lost the Super Bowl to Kansas City, which was a nail biter, the thought was, oh, they'll be back. Like they're going to really ramp up.
True.
We're still waiting for that a little bit. And I thought that too. I thought that too. Incredibly deep, well-rounded roster. We'll see.
All right, before I talk about the wedding, I got a text from listener Brady, podcast listener Brady, and he said that the journey and so he was at the Ryder Cup. The journey to ensure a seat in the stands for the first tee on Friday was like running with the bulls, but in pitch dark. Fell once, got stiff-armed trying to get up, fell again, maybe a minute later, trying to go over some mounds. Sent me pictures of a bloody leg, his right pants totally destroyed. Totally destroyed. So it was brutal. So
what is it a successful mission though? Did he make it?
It looks like he said, and then the next text, but made it.
Oh, what a legend.
He was good to go.
What a legend.
The way to go, Brady. A couple injuries, but USA.
Because for Sunday singles, they don't tee off till like 11:30 Central Time. Gates open at 8:30. People are there at 6:15. It's truly, it's a sea of people. That's funny. Wow, getting banged up, stiff-armed, running in the dark. What a legend making it though.
It is. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So this weekend, Saturday, I drove down to Georgia and went to my college roommate's wedding and absolutely had a blast. So I've been to, I want to say like 40 weddings in my life. This was top 5. So I went to one of the best weddings I've been to. And
let's quick pause. Yep. You had significant reservations going in.
I did.
So this is a major win.
So having been to so many weddings over the years, I've developed some principles and philosophies to weddings. So one of them is I would rather go to a wedding in the summer, specifically July, when there are no sports to get in the way, right? So my friend decided, okay, maybe Saturday in the fall, September, my favorite month, especially for sports, let me do that. So Ryder Cup weekend, college football, NFL. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so that's one. And then also I prefer Saturday, afternoon weddings in the summer. My buddy decided to do Sunday at 10 a.m. on a football Sunday. And so so there were some reservations, but it blew it out of the water. It was tremendous.
Wow.
So unique. We had a beautiful day, beautiful setting. It was in the mountains, and everything was fantastic. So because it was breakfast, the spread, seasonal frittatas. We had French toast concoction.
Now we're talking.
There was a coffee cart. This was like, so I had a pumpkin cappuccino.
So this is what they're serving guests.
Yeah.
Guests, you're getting breakfast and coffee.
Yes.
So let me just pause right there. Automatically incredible. Breakfast, by far the best meal of the day.
I don't need another piece of chicken. I mean, how much chicken can I eat in my life?
Seriously, exactly. I'm all chickened out.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I'm salivating right now listening to this. This is incredible.
Yep. So that was great. And speaking of it being on Sunday, there was a moment during the not while we were eating. So I got the prime spot next to the groom. So I'm sitting at the head table next to the groom.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So
you were in the wedding, correct?
I was a groomsman, but he did not select a best man. However,
interesting.
By the end of the weekend, I was the de facto best man. It was never spoken. It was never spoken. However, who was the first groomsman next to him in line during the ceremony? That was me. Who sat next to him during the meal? That was me. And then who gave the only toast? That was me.
Wow.
So if I didn't know any better, I was the best man without getting the title.
Interesting.
So how should I feel about that? I didn't get the title, but titles aren't everything. It's more about action. So I was there for the action. But anyway, so I'm sitting next to him during the meal, and I said, "Have you checked your fantasy lineup?" And he pulled out his phone and actually started doing his fantasy lineup. And then his brand new wife goes, "Bryce, what are you doing? Stop! No, you can't be looking at your fantasy lineup during a wedding."
Wait, she's saying that to you, or the groom's name is Bryce?
No, to me, she was yelling at me while also yelling at Scott.
Yes.
So it was. So then he handed me the phone. So then I was in a predicament because he goes, "Here, change my lineup." Well, I'm in the same league as him. Why would I change his lineup? So I did like one move for him. And then I was like, "Hey, you can pick up some players." And so I just slid over the phone and said, "Hey, pick up who you want because you have an empty roster spot." So that was my, a little bit of kindness, but not too much strategic.
So you didn't sabotage him.
No, which I could have done because here you go. Here's my lineup. I didn't even think of that, but you went to the sabotage. I'm not an animal. I was the de facto best man. You can't be doing that. So I got a little fantasy in there.
So no best man. Interesting.
Yep.
I've never seen that.
It was unique. Everything was unique about this wedding, and that's what made it so awesome.
Was there any internal struggle, any unsaid competition between the groomsmen on climbing that mountain to become the best man?
That's a good point. Now, it was a combination of high school friends and college friends. Ooh. So that's what, and then maybe a brother-in-law type of thing. You don't expect them. They're kind of the default part of the wedding party type of thing.
That's right. They're the automatic pick.
So 2 high school friends versus 3 college friends. So we already had the advantage there. And
of being a high school friend.
I was a college friend. This was a
college friend. Recency bias. College friend typically does have advantage.
Well, but then the high school has the history, so you knew them longer. But yeah. So I was already scheduled to give my speech during the ceremony. So the other 2 guys had their chance during the rehearsal dinner. One chose to give a speech and it ended up being pretty good. He landed it, but it still didn't push him to the top of the list. It wasn't enough. And then the other guy didn't give a speech. So there was some underlying competition, but ultimately there was no competition.
Wait, so you spoke at the wedding or the rehearsal dinner?
At the wedding.
At the wedding. And that was scheduled by him.
That was scheduled. I got the heads up. Hey, I'm counting on you to do a speech. I was like, okay, that sounds good. Now, the problem is my buddies that have known me for a while and know that, I'm radio and I speak and preach. And so I'm fine with a microphone. I like a good microphone, right? So I'm fine doing a speech. But see, then the pressure is always on me. They're like counting on me to, oh, you got to come up with something. You're used to speaking, so you should be able to do something, something entertaining and good. So then I go in with all this pressure. So I'm sitting there trying to eat the seasonal frittata and my little cappuccino with the pumpkin flavor. And I'm thinking, oh, I got to come through on this. And then I got to finally seal the deal that I am the best man today. So anyway, I brought it home. I brought a pretty good speech, and I felt excited about it. So it was cool.
Did you err on more genuine speech or more, I've got to get the people laughing?
So somebody brought this up to me afterward, and I think they were exactly right. The key to a good toast at the end, during a wedding, is you can't go too inside joke and too personal. You have to make the toast attainable for the crowd. If you really want to get the crowd into it and add to the wedding. Now, if you have something personal that you want to share, just write a note, write a letter, write an encouragement, to that individual, the bride or groom. That's fine. Yeah. But for a toast, this is for the entire wedding.
That's right. It's not for you. It's not even necessarily for the guy getting married. It's for the people in attendance.
It's to add and celebrate, and all that kind of thing. So I told some funny stories that revealed the character of Scott and what he was all about. And he's a guy who recycles and sings in the shower and all these kinds of things. So I told all these funny stories. And so,
recycles? What's funny? Yeah, are you anti-recycling? Oh man, this guy over here, he recycles. Can you believe that? What's funny about recycling?
I'm not gonna get into my whole speech here, but the bottom line is we lived with 7 guys in college, and there was no recycle service that came to our house. And so in college, I was not going to make the effort of recycling. Like I wasn't going to go out of my way to recycle. So we would just throw things in the trash that could have been recycled. And Scott would go into the trash to pull out the recyclable items. He would collect them. And I think he would put them in his room, or maybe he left them in the kitchen, but he would set them out, and then he would actually take them to the recycling plant or wherever you take recyclable items. So he was the actual service. So anyway, I told him, I told the crowd that he was willing to sacrifice, and he's just revealed a little bit about him. He's a great guy. Scott's like one of the best. So anyway, but the key to a good speech and toast is you want to have some funny stories, get a little laughter, maybe shed a tear, get emotional, and bring the crowd into it. So I had some audience interaction, raise your hand, and that kind of thing. So if you ever
my last question is, how did you navigate the dance floor?
Oh,
because it was a solo mission. You didn't have the crutch of dancing with your daughters. So doesn't matter what you're doing. You're always going to be, oh, he's out there dancing with his daughters. Impossible to fail there. But it's a solo mission. You didn't have your troops with you. So how did you navigate that?
So anyway, you know what I don't like coming into a wedding? When the DJ announces the wedding party and always gets the order wrong. It's not always his fault, but somehow along the way, like you always announce, all right, coming in next, you got groomsman Steve, and Jim comes out. Yeah. and so that always happens. And so, but then they like, hey, this girl that you have no idea who it is, you just got paired with, one of the bridesmaids, one of the sisters. It's like, hey, come dance, as you enter into the ceremony, do some kind of dance, right? Have you been a part of weddings where they tell you to dance and you do this like awkward, like you're holding on to each other, so you really can't move, but you don't want to fully dance with the person because you just met them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I did. Yeah. So I got caught into that. So I don't like that. So I got the awkward, yeah, we're dancing. Hey, everybody, where's the groomsmen? Hey. So that happened. But then Scott, right before this, he goes, hey guys, Kelly and I are going to do our choreographed dance, the first dance. And then at the end of the song, all of the wedding party is going to come out to the dance floor and we're all going to dance together. And I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, fine. If that's your wish, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of mentally was like, all right, I'm going to go all in on this. I had no idea what the song was going in. And then even as it played, it was a true hip hop song, to say the least. And I'm goofy. So I went out and was very goofy, dancing to the hip hop song in the middle. And because again, I was kind of elevated as the best man, I had to carry it. So I was carrying the awkward everybody in the center of the dance floor.
I'm just trying to get a mental image here. Are you more the Elaine from Seinfeld route? Do you dance like Elaine? Or are you kind of the foot tapping guy with arms crossed on beat, or is the whole body just going crazy?
So I had normally I'm goofy, just hey, tap, simple, I'll only go out for the slow dance songs. But because I've been trapped in my house for the last, month or two, newborn baby. And so it's been family time. So I was like, let loose for I got one night out. This was a Sunday morning. And so I was all hocked up on coffee. So I was feeling good with some coffee, that cappuccino, the pumpkin cappuccino. So I was willing to let loose and have some fun, thanks to the caffeine. So I more so than normal. I'll put it that way. More dancing than normal.
Gotcha.
So that was pretty cool. However, so with all that said, I have to get this off my chest. It was a wonderful wedding. Happy for my friend. One of the coolest things they did, they had a bounce house for adults. So we did a bounce house, which was really fun. But here's the negative side of the day. They had a dog. There was a dog in the wedding. Now, many of you listening, you're dog owners. You love dogs. Dogs are the best. They're man's best friend. Well, guess what? I am allergic to dogs. Ooh. Sadly, I don't like dogs because I can't be around dogs. You can't be around something if you don't like them. You can't be around. If you can't be around them, you don't like them. And so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they brought a dog to the wedding, and not only did they bring him to the wedding, they put him in the wedding. He carried the ring down the aisle.
Interesting.
And then, so even though I got, promoted to top groomsman, they thought that it would be okay for the dog to sit right near me or sit near me as I'm standing in the hot sun. And I'm thinking, oh no, now I'm going to start sneezing. And I remember mouthing during the ceremony, "This is my nightmare." So hopefully people knew that I was talking about the dog and not, this wonderful day.
Who did you mouth it to?
Ceremony. I think to the other groomsmen, like, "This is my nightmare." Because my college buddies know that I can't handle dogs.
Huh.
So that was unfortunate. The dog situation was rough. But anyway, I survived. I thankfully did not sneeze. Allegedly a hypoallergenic dog. So it was good. I made it through. But anyway, great day, tremendous, and thrilled to be a part of it. It was fun to get away for a night, and then back at it last night, back with the daughters and Jody. So
interesting.
So there you go. Now we'll get Monday Night Football tonight.
Yep.
Let's say a quick hello to Henry as we wrap things up. Two final things to discuss. Tonight's game, Dallas and Philly. Luke's a Cowboys fan. So, Luke, are you confident tonight? Philly, kind of one of these teams, kind of a mystery team, I would say at this point. And then I would say next weekend, as we already prepare, the game that will hype up all week, New England and Tampa Bay.
Yes.
Tom Brady's triumphant return to New England. Right? It's in New England. I think it's in New England. And so I can't wait for that. So here's my quick take on the Belichick-Brady situation. I believe that Belichick made Tom Brady who he is. However, once he was established as that, then Brady took it from there. And Brady became who he was made, like who Belichick made him to be. And then he's like, all right, I'm good. This is the type of player I'm going to be, and I'm going to keep getting better. And he worked at it. But I do not believe Brady would have gotten to this level if it wasn't for Belichick. So the idea, and I'm a big Brady guy, love what he's doing in Tampa Bay. But I always give credit to Belichick. So there you go. Henry, how you doing, man? Great job. Sorry, we're just bringing you in now. I went long on the wedding stories.
No worries, boys. Let's get right to it. So along those lines, guys, of the Brady versus Belichick game next week, Belichick is on record saying that he actually never wanted Brady to leave. You guys buying that?
No, I think Belichick was ready to move on. Like that. That's what I believe. I think he was, all right, we don't know how many more years with Brady. Let's transition, and now's the time to build the next era of the Patriots, which is surprising to me that Belichick wants to continue to coach. It would have made sense for him to just ride it out with Brady and then them both be done together. That would have been best case scenario. But yeah, I think toward the end there was the tension, and yeah, I don't buy that.
Everything that seemed to be reported, it made it seem like they wanted to part ways. Maybe it was ego. Maybe they both wanted to prove they could do it without the other. But I wouldn't go so far as saying they both wanted to stay together. I would say it's more they wanted to depart versus remain together.
Yeah, I agree.
I personally think that Tom Brady was out the door as soon as they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo.
So little Aaron Rodgers situation.
Exactly. And one more tap for you. We got tonight's game. We've got the Dallas Cowboys. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles. I personally have no skin in the game because I hate both of them. But I'm not going to ask you who you got for the game. I'm going to ask you this. Which team needs this win more? The Dallas Cowboys trying to establish themselves as an elite team, or the Philadelphia Eagles trying to get the Carson Wentz stench off of them?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Actually, I think the Cowboys are in a position to be a really good team. They should be the team that wins this division, goes to the playoffs. They've got so many weapons. This is their season. This is their chance. They have a Super Bowl winning coach who's now in his second season. So the expectations are high, and you got to win these games early in the season. National TV, Monday Night Football, the Manning cast. It's go time. Philadelphia, it's a young quarterback, second year. It's a first-year head coach. Tons of young wide receivers. Miles Sanders has been there for a few years. So to me, they're still learning, growing, developing. If they play tough and continue to show improvement, to me, that's where Philadelphia is at. Now, fans in Philadelphia just want to win. But I think Dallas needs the win. It would mean more to them in their pursuit of a successful season.
It would be far more negative for Dallas to lose than positive for the Eagles to win.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because if Dallas loses this, it's going to be the beginning of disaster. Because
one loss.
Because to lose to the Eagles, to be 1-2 on a season that you clearly the favorite to win a bad division, NFC East is a bad division, because you have to win this game. You cannot lose to a division rival in a season where you confidently should win the division. This is a must win. It should be a statement win for Dallas. If they lose, gosh, that's so concerning. That's really bad.
All right, who gets more yards tonight, Zeke or Tony Pollard?
Ooh.
More total yards.
I don't know. I will say Zeke, because it doesn't seem to be the case where Dallas keeps going to the well for Pollard. As much as I want them to, a good Tony Pollard game doesn't seem to repeat itself. Oh, we're going to go back to Pollard. I don't know. I wish they would. I just feel like historically it's going to be Zeke.
All right, Henry, before we go, your Giants lost to a bad Falcons team yesterday. I got to listen to it on the radio, though. What a treat. Is it the sky falling for the Giants? Is this it?
I don't think the sky is falling quite just yet, but I will tell you this. It's kind of hard to admit the fact that the best New York team right now hasn't even played yet, and that's the New York Knicks. They haven't even started their season yet, and they're already the best team in New York.
Yeah,
I mean, the Mets are out of the playoffs. The Yankees, although they have the top spot in the wild card chase right now, they just came off of a sweep in Boston, which was fine. They still have to go through Toronto, who's chasing them for a wild card spot. And, of course, they still have to go up against the defending American League champions, the Tampa Bay Rays, to finish out the season. So I don't see it's not a good outlook for the Yankees. And like I said, the Mets, are out of it already. If you want to go to hockey, the Rangers haven't been good since 1994. So right now, and I'm not really a Brooklyn fan, even though I'm from Brooklyn. I don't like KD. I don't like Kyrie. I barely like Blake Griffin. So the best team in New York right now hasn't even gotten on the court yet. So is the sky falling? No, but don't be surprised if I show up with a raincoat and umbrella next week.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I feel like I've been consistent with my concern with the Giants. So I think it's trouble in New York. However, Saquon looked better. Saquon did look better. So
Saquon looked better. And, of course, another game with Daniel Jones didn't look bad at all. But the problem is the fact that the rest of the team is so undisciplined. It's not the fact that they lost. They're making crucial and stupid mistakes. And for once, it's not coming from the quarterback position. But, of course, he'll get the blame.
Yeah, that is always interesting. He's not the reason they're losing, but I still, can he be a winner in the NFL? I don't know. Best case scenario, he's Kirk Cousins, but I'm not sure if that's even the trajectory.
Hey, Kirk Cousins got two guaranteed contracts back to back. So if he becomes Kirk Cousins, then hey, he ain't doing too bad.
No, the financial side's pretty strong there for Kirk. But all right, guys, well, great job. That was fun. Enjoy being with you. Thanks for all your help. Thanks everybody listening today here on the Unpacking It Live podcast. I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. There will be doubts at times. We'll have tough days. And like we talked about earlier, there will be those seasons and waves of doubt. But let's continue to turn to him and trust him and rely on him and find our strength and peace and joy in him. And so be encouraged, and God loves you. And we'll talk soon right here on the Unpacking It Live podcast.